Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. Hope everybody is having a wonderful day. Let's talk about everything that happened in the market today as we have uncertainty that is continuing to rise within the markets. This is especially after today we saw, and we talked about this literally in yesterday's video, that NVIDIA's earnings, even though that they were amazing and you could talk about possibly historical earnings, the market still faded it. So even though the AI demand is very strong, the market is turning sour right now, and we're having a lot of difficulty getting the SPY above 690, and that's exactly what we saw at the market open, was a large flush down to like 684. So we're going to be talking about that, what this could possibly mean going forward, because what kind of catalysts are going to be necessary to help push the SPY above 690. We're going to be talking about how does Palantir, some of the individual names, how does it all get incorporated into this whole mumble jumble, and kind of what's happening with crypto, because we're seeing a little bit of volatility there. So if you're a new or returning viewer, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos. Let's pop it up on the channel here. What we always talk about first, Palantir, we've been talking about that for a while. Palantir is still just kind of continuing to consolidate at this area. It's kind of searching for some support, and it's holding the support, which has been pretty nice, because as we know, Palantir has had that large breakdown from when it lost this basically 160, 170 area, and Palantir is now trying to search for a bottom right now. The only thing with the uncertainty in the market is we don't know when that true bottom is going to occur. This could still obviously continue to be a falling knife. A short-term bounce, yes, we can definitely have that, but looking at the longer-term trends, right now we do have some indicators that are leading to some exhaustion within the market. For tomorrow, things could be a little bit different, because historically, over the last few weeks, we've had some different things, and we'll be talking about some of the data that'll be coming out tomorrow. But nonetheless, Palantir here, it really all depends on the time horizon, because, you know, we have UBS right here, you can see AMA right here. I've just upgraded Palantir to a buy from neutral with $180 price target. So, you know, Palantir is still continuing as a business and fundamentally to do very well in terms of its execution. It's more of just what's Wall Street pricing it at right now. And I kind of like this chart right here. You know, it's talking about we might see a rebound in Palantir soon. We might definitely see that. But could that be a bigger trap that's being set up in terms of what a possible true bottom could mean for this market? The reason I say that is because NVIDIA right here really sold off after its really good earnings. We see here NVIDIA comes down about 5% today after basically touching around that 200. NVIDIA is now down here at this 185. Now, it's been interesting because NVIDIA spent its whole week trying to grind up to this 200 area, and unfortunately is now kind of back stuck in this consolidation zone, literally where SPY is right now. And what happened to the SPY at the market open was the SPY basically opened up here at 690 and flushes all the way down to about 684 right here on the bottom, and is trying to find an area to possibly have either some optimism or there could be a further breakdown. People are looking at this on a technical basis and saying, hey, we could be having a double bottom right here, but what about the double top that we've seen? In the overnight session, we also see the SPY that's down about 30 basis points right now as we speak at 209. So it's literally stuck in this 3-month consolidation zone. Look at this choppiness and this range boundness. Right between the 700 and the 670s, that's where the SPY has just been sitting. Now, the big question going forward is what is going to be a catalyst that can push the market higher. The reason being is because we've already seen like 600 to 700 billion in AI capital expenditures that have been announced, and we had amazing earnings from NVIDIA, and that did fail to push this market to its new all-time highs and past the 700 for the SPY and the 7,000 for the S&P 500 index. So sitting right here, in terms of what we could possibly be doing for, is there a possible potential breakdown or a further correction that's coming at some time? Of course, we don't know when that's going to happen. A lot of the individual names have been taking a lot of heat. So individual names that we can be talking about right here, talking about that, like Hood. Hood has been doing incredibly well in terms of the short-term bounce and support that it has established at the 70. Now, Hood right here has had about a 50% cut already. And if you compare that to SPY, that's really nothing, because SPY is still around its all-time highs. So some of these individual names experiencing a little bit of love, I think is kind of not to be expected. Should say nothing should be expected in the market, but isn't surprising. Because like I said, a lot of these individual names have already experienced these large haircuts, literally 50% right here. And Robinhood is doing a good job establishing some of that support right at the 70. So we are seeing a little bit of a bounce here. The question is, is this the bottom or is this a bounce here that could be faded out if we see a big change in the macroeconomic situation? In terms of the SPY right here, I like the Bronx Viking, does a lot of posting on X about technical levels and talking about trying to find a demand or volume or call buying above that 690 level. It's going to be hard. The market continues to really rinse and repeat this entire zone, kind of like we talked about NVIDIA posting its last day since last April. One of the things about NVIDIA, if NVIDIA has a strong pullback, that could be a leading indicator for the SPY because it has about an 8% market weight on the SPY, so we do need to consider that. Looking at some of these other technical patterns here, I like to follow here. John on X is very realistic on his approach into the market. Not a perma bull or perma bear. Don't like to follow those type of people that can always change their opinion depending on what the market presents them in terms of technical information right here. Saying here, he's also kind of preparing for a larger correction, talking about hasn't taken a large trade that could possibly be coming up since 2024. So you see some of these people showing some of these indicators here that there could be possibilities of a further pullback, and kind of how do we hedge and prepare for that. This is with the futures here that are sliding also. So in terms of this, what we have for tomorrow's information on the macroeconomic situation is going to be January's producer price index. This is going to be the measure, of course, of inflation. I think this could bring a little bit of volatility. However, not expecting kind of some huge changes unless the numbers are really, really far away from the expectations from Wall Street. Now, in terms of what we have actually seen on Friday is typically a VIX crush. And you can see here, it looks like the VIX is ready to turn up a little bit. Now, with the VIX that is ready to make a move, possibly we could see a little bit of some selling pressure, or we could see some buying at the same time. Now, talking about that, and specifically what I'm looking at here with crypto is at about 67,000. 2,000 here on Ethereum. You see fear and greed right here is around 16. We, of course, had that whole Jane Street lawsuit. Now, with that lawsuit, basically, we saw a lot of Bitcoin that was dumping from them exactly at 10 a.m. every single day. Now, with that lawsuit, and typically what we've seen is ever since then, Bitcoin was able to have a little bit of a bounce from about the 62 to 63,000 area up to about 67. So I'm not necessarily turning a bullish type of perspective on Bitcoin or Ethereum quite yet, especially since Ethereum is back here already testing kind of this $2,000 level. We'll see if support gets held here or if this will continue to be faded. If some of this will be faded, we could possibly see Robinhood that unfortunately will experience some selling pressure just due to the correlation that they've had kind of throughout the markets, even though I disagree with the strong correlation that they do have in terms of their trading behavior and trading pattern. Other names that I'm looking at specifically right now, looking at Cypher, specifically right here at 16. Now, Cypher had their earnings that really redefined their business because they are now going to be transforming to Cypher Digital, and they are going to be tossing all their Bitcoin away and getting rid of the whole Bitcoin type of perspective in their business. And I like that, especially as this AI data center build out, I think is going to be incredibly bullish over the next decade. So I'll be keeping a close eye on things like Cypher, IREN, Nebius right here. See how Nebius is doing, still holding the 100. That 100 support, not incredibly strong, but you see here, CoreWeave comes down here about 8% in the overnight session. They had to release their earnings, but I have not had a chance to look at their earnings. But looking right here, just at the actual move, we can see that the expectations are, or what the actual results were maybe not the best. In terms of the names here, this is just giving me a further indicator with the sell-off that we've seen that I think the SPY could be due for a further pullback, but we'll see what happens. Talking about next week, we could see some bigger moves, typically since we haven't seen this sell-off on Friday session. That's the only thing that's going to be kind of keeping a little bit of bullishness possibly into the end of the week. Otherwise, I'm just not seeing a ton of bullish indicators or things that are pointing to a direction that the market is ready to push past its all-time highs. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I really would like to kind of see the reverse perspective of what you guys think. And, of course, there's always the perspective with, hey, look at this AI build out and blah, blah, blah. I think fundamentally, and the conviction behind some of these names, like I said, is incredibly bullish in terms of the long-term time frame. However, we're just not seeing that actually being representative in the market price action. Peace out, take care, and I'll catch you guys later.